The second scenario, built on the community research process and fed into the practice-based workshops that were to come. And in this, they are a team of community radio people. So the scenario read as follows: you are members of a community radio production team and have been invited by the community to explore ways in which the new community radio station might firstly help raise awareness of the problems of modern day slavery in Migori County, campaign to effect social change, think about what issues might need to be covered and how, and thirdly, organise content for community campaigns that contribute to solving these problems within the community. Think about what kind of programme content should be produced. How might community radio cover local events, for example, to produce local interest programmes? How might community stories be told on the radio in a way that has an impact and is of relevance to the community? Who should be involved to take part in the programmes? And we also asked them to add anything else that they considered important in this scenario.
I'm Rose here, as I said before. I'm a member of Group 1. We discussed on what kind of program contents should be produced in this our radio station community. And the points that we've just highlighted here are the solutions, the main solutions to the modern day slavery forms that we discussed the other time. And so, I'll explain one by one on how they can give a solution to these problems that we identified before. One, in these radio stations, we need to include agricultural production programs. Through these programs, we'll have to be taught, or we'll have to have a facilitator who will be able to explain to us or help us understand the modern agricultural production techniques. We have programs that enhance spiritual development. Spiritual development in our radio stations are very important because many of us normally go astray because of lack of spiritual development and encouragement from spiritual partners. This eradicates cultural and traditional customs and beliefs. Another thing concerning this point, family life programs also makes the parents or the guardians themselves to be informed. Some of us here, kama watoto, we can't even stay and share with our parents the problems that we normally undergo. Because they are just, it's like violence, it's like war. If I go tell her, Mama, today I need some pads from you, I won't, because she's very harsh, she's very cruel, and so you end up maybe misleading yourself or going the other way to achieve whatever you wanted to get. And so if our parents and our guardians understand all this through the radio programs with good facilitators in this radio station, I think this will eliminate this fear and that bond, that relationship between the students or between the children and their parents will be very strong.
I present the findings of Group 3. Now, when we started our discussion, we all agreed that knowledge is power as Group 3. And in so doing, we agreed that radio is such a powerful device that can shape the thinkings, the opinion, and all that happens within the community. Therefore, our findings were that radio is one of the most important things that we need to have in the community if we have to realize any growth or any other good. Now, we took ourselves as producers. We sat and asked ourselves that we're talking about the modern anti-slavery. How can we use radio creating awareness? Now, we did identify that radio basically has 3 roles, that we've got the informative, the educative, and the entertainment. That the question now comes in that this radio belongs to Chamgiwadu. We want to come up with a program and ultimately find perhaps a solution to it. What do we do? Now we say the very first important thing is that we have to identify the problem itself. You see things like child labor, they exist within us, in our community. Now, in our case, for instance, we settled on poverty, and not the wider poverty, rather we said at times lack of education. Parents find it difficult to pay school fees, despite the fact that we have large tracts of land. When our children sit for, say, KCPE, we find it a little bit perturbing to take them to the next level. With the same statement, there is lack of money. So we took that case study, coming up with our program on how we can eradicate this. Because when there is no education, this is what will lead to, say, like some of those modern slavery, like child labor. Perhaps the parent or the child doesn't have knowledge. So they find themselves in some awkward situation. And because there's no way they can overcome this, they be there and they keep quiet. So we identified first as producers. Now, after identifying the problem, we said we would, of the roles that radio plays, we would revoke the informative role. We're informing them. You will all agree with us that times we've heard radio, announcing that such and such and such is happening in such and such a community. It's not quite good, and there is need for change. We will come up with a format, program format, that is like we come up with, we chose on a talk show. There are varieties of program formats in radio, but in this case, we chose on a talk show. And then in our talk show, we have, our content will be such that we have the background of the problem. Remember, we have the problem. Now we brief our listeners. And in this case, even though the listeners is all-inclusive, we will be much interested with our target audience so that we give them the background of the information. For instance, last year we recorded 10 cases, 10 rape cases in Chamgiwadu village. Or last year, 20 students, 20 pupils, or rather candidates, out of 60 who sat for their KCPE in such and such a school did not join high school. The only serious song is no fees. So we gave the background, and our background here, we followed with the effects. What has that brought to the community? Now that they have dropped, how good is life for them? How far have they gone? You see, so that becomes the body of our information. Yasa will really attend. Worse off when he hear himself cheering through the radio. It's a different story. So, live coverage. Now, we also said we'd cover the local events, say perhaps farming. We would send some expertise on the field. They do the recording so that when we have our program on radio, their voices can be played, offering what they think about this and this and this. That these methods of coverage not only would make them have, have the urge or the sense of much attachment, but would bring that real feeling. Telling the stories. How do you tell a story? Now we discussed and agreed that as producers, the life of the community, at the time we are doing our production, entirely lies on our hands.
In Group 5, we were looking at how might community stories be told on the radio in a way that has an impact on the community. First, we started by identifying the common slavery, the problems that are encountered within Migori County. And then we saw that there is forced marriage. We have child labor or child slavery. When you go to marketplaces, you find some children selling these bags at the market, some selling fruits, some selling common things in the markets. Then we have child abuse, whereby child mutilation is happening in Korea. FGM, female genital mutilation, is happening in Korea. Then we have human trafficking. That is, we know we border Tanzania, whereby we have albinos, and albinos are transported from here to Tanzania for some rights there that we doesn't know the meaning of them. We could have talk shows. We can campaign through radio stations in local languages. We can reach the chiefs barazas. That is to have, because we can have such a program within, for such programs to reach the community, we have to market our radio station. So our radio station, to be heard, we have to go through the, for it is not existing at this time, we have to advertise it in other radio stations. We have to go through the chiefs barazas. We have to go through the churches, the social centers, organized events on specific slavery modes, then the schools, the funerals, or organized groups. We have to visit them and advertise to them, tell them that there is something that's coming up in Migo, in Chamguadu region. Through this, we have to have something that will be helping us in encountering the challenge. That is formation of social groups to discuss the challenges. So if we have the social groups that in the social groups, we tell them the challenges that are happening. You organize them, maybe some people who are vulnerable or people who have been are victims in the slavery. So you can come up with them, talk to them, then you share with them. Then counseling programs on radio over the merits and the demerits of slavery. Then we can have organized talk shows for one-on-one engagements. That is, we can call somebody, maybe a counselor or somebody who can talk about what has been taken about the slavery, or we can have the victims coming together and sharing their experience. We can have rescue centers. Rescue centers, you see at the FGM that is happening in Korea. It used to happen with our neighbors, the Gusis. So we have a rescue center. In this rescue center, should a child be forced to have the FGM, then we have a rescue center that they can be helped. So we can mobilize through the radio station and having the rescue centers. We can invite capsules to share the challenges. That is, we can have one-on-one talks. So you call, some people can be calling to the station, they share their experiences, then everybody is included in the project. They can be taken back to school. Now, we can organize so that if there are children that are being abused, or there is anything that has been happening, because we find that for the abuse of children, the victims are out of school, forced marriage, a child is married after 13 years, and he or she should be still be going to school. So we can organize a model that through our radio station that they come back and go back to school. And we will look for sponsorship or scholarships that they can be funded, so that at a later date they can be a role model in the society. They can be empowered economically, socially, emotionally, and also spiritually, so that they come to terms with themselves, they understand their problems, then they own, the community owns the problems, they themselves as well owns the problems, then we come with a clear indications of the challenges that we can encounter, the problems that are within our society. In form of the demerits or of the slavery, that is the problems that are brought about by slavery, or any other thing that will affect the community, social growth, economic growth, spiritual growth, or any other thing. Unless there is any question, or any other reason from the group members, I beg to move.